Go ahead. Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Easter. My name is Stacy Kopsha. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve as a member of your Board of Trustees. And I welcome you all to Tahoma what's the matter? Louder. Tahoma Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I welcome new visitors and longtime members alike. We are a diverse group coming from many beliefs, backgrounds, genders, and sexualities. You are all welcome here, just as you are. We're a multi-platform congregation, so we have people here in the church as well as online, and I welcome you all. If this is your first time, I bid you a special welcome. Please, at the back of the sanctuary, we are equipped with hearing assistant devices. One of our ushers would be more than happy to help you. Let's see. There will be a chat chaplain online to help people who are on the Zoom platform. And for those of us in the congregation, the screen behind me, they'll be used to have the in unison readings as well as the lyrics to our hymns. In the order of service, you will find information about our website, tahomauu.com, and on it will be our weekly e-news. An update to the weekly e-news, it will no longer be archived on our website. And we're doing this so that we can include personal contact information for we can do emails and phone numbers and have it be secure. And this would facilitate better communication within the congregation. If you haven't signed up for our weekly e-news, please do so. There's a lot happening. I'd like to highlight a few things. First, a personal thank you to people who have stepped up for our RE, our Religious Exploration Program. We put a shout out for volunteers to help teach and to volunteer in our nursery. And so many people have stepped forward, and I just want to say a sincere thank you. I think we're good till the end of the year, but we're always looking for volunteers. So if you're interested, please see me or Chrissy Kim. There is an auction coming up on April 13th, and Sheila Wybrow will say a word with.
It's auction news time. So exciting. So if you're like me, you go through the e-news, got it. And then you realize I haven't really tracked the details. So for auction, the tickets pay for the food. And if you buy your ticket beforehand, that helps us know how much food to buy. Coffee, tea, soda, that's all free. For beer and wine, we would appreciate a cash donation if you wish to have an alcoholic beverage. And if you're playing one of the games, that's $5 cash for the 50-50 or the guess the corks or the heads or tails. And we were hoping to have card swipers if you wanted to buy a ticket today, but of course they haven't come in. And Teresa Hall is trying to figure out how to do it with her phone. She's back in Teresa Hall in the hall trying to do that. So if that's unsuccessful, you can find the information in the e-news, go to the auction website, click on buy tickets. You can look at the catalog, and we still need volunteers, particularly for payment processing and entering the winning bid numbers, data processing. And Teresa is going to train you. It's very easy. Even I can do it. And Penny, the wonderful Penny Douglas, who has lots of great ideas, is going to be walking around with a clipboard. You can approach her. She's very nice, and she will show you all the volunteer positions that are available, and we would just so appreciate your help. So that's April 13th. It's 2 weeks away, and if you still want to donate something, yay, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila and Penny. And now let's see, other things. There will be an adult discussion group that's going to be starting up, and Maria has here to say a few words on that. The first meeting is this week, this Tuesday.
Okay, we're doing something for adults this month, and it'll be here in the sanctuary on April 2nd, and then the next 2 weeks, and then the next 2 weeks. And the book is South to America by Imani Perry. And it's an exploration of her travels in the South and her ideas about many, many things, race and history, and it's just fascinating. There's 3 sections. So the first class, it's not a class, discussion group, will be on the first section, and then 2 weeks later, second section, and then third section. So please come. And if you haven't read it all or whatever, you just want to discuss these things, we're not picky, just come and enjoy talking with your fellow adults about important matters. So, and then I also wanted to mention my bonus announcement is that I have posted a paper in the back of the sanctuary that has all the active teams, committees, and groups. And I'm hoping to get all the information, contact information lined up so that if you're like, oh, I think I'm interested in Third Friday potluck, you can go and go, oh, this is who I contact. So we're trying to increase communication between contact information and between all of us. So if you have any questions, just go back and look at the paper. It's right by the admin office.
Great. Thank you, Maria. A few other opportunities that we have, our worship committee, due to our minister being on extended leave, our worship committee has been working double time and really hard. I believe they always have need for chaplains and celebrants. So if you're able to step forward and have an interest in volunteering, see Chrissy Kim or Scott. And also, we're still looking for some members for our next year's Board of Trustees. And if you're interested in that, please see Chrissy Kim or another board member. The pledge drive will kick off on April 7th, and there's a pledge drive committee. David Pettit is steering that committee. He said at this point, I think they need one more person to volunteer for that. So if you're interested in that, see David Pettit. There's an OWL seminar, Our Whole Lives online. There's a link in our e-news to fill that out. I think they'll be going on for 2 more weeks for that. And let's see, I think that's it. Those are all my highlights. There's a lot going on, a lot I didn't say, so please check out the e-news, and again, sign up if you haven't already. I invite you to enjoy us after service for coffee and conversation. If you're a new member, please use a red mug if you're interested in talking so we can identify you. And that's it. I think that's it. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that I speak to you today from the land of the Coast Salish people, including the Puyallup Tribal Nation, land from which they were forcibly displaced. I affirm the continued sovereignty of the 574 legally recognized tribes, including the 29 here in Washington State. I support those still fighting for federal recognition. I acknowledge the theft, the violence, the trauma, the racism that Indigenous people have experienced at the hands of colonizers since 1492 on to the present day. I honor the resiliency of the Indigenous people and stand with them as they continue to fight for land, water, visibility, sovereignty, and their very existence. Lastly, I invite you to turn off your phones, set them to worship mode. We're gathered here, one community together. Let's settle ourselves into this moment to open our hearts to learn and to unlearn, to share and receive. Let us worship together. Good morning. My name's Patty McPhee, and I will be leading this service today. Creating is our birthright. Practice through life to try and try again. It's not about being perfect. It's not even about being good. It's about trying and trying again. You will never get good without practice.
Good morning, I'm Bob Hayes, and I am your, celebrant, we'll call it today. I am blessed and honored to bring up Cindy Hackett to light our chalice this morning. I think most of us know, but maybe some of you don't, how many things Cindy and Dave do to keep this place running. And we so much appreciate everything from making sure that we've got coffee and goodies for after the service to keeping the parking lot picked up and on and on and on. So thank you so much, Cindy and Dave. The words should appear on the screen after Cindy goes ahead and lights us up. We light this chalice in deep respect for the mystery and the holiness of life, in honor and gratitude for those who have gone before, with love and compassion for those who dwell among us, and with hope and faith for the generations to come. And that moves us into our first hymn of the morning, which is numbers 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. The way will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be in your ears every song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. And be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Now is the time for all ages, and if those who are young or young at heart or have much more flexible knees than I have would care to come up and join me in a little bit of a story about someone who wasn't afraid to change. Okay,
Have you ever thought of what it would be like, kids, if you moved to a new city and you wanted to do something that you'd always loved doing and you wanted to make it bigger and better? What would it be like to move to a whole different country and try to do that in a city that you didn't know? This is a story about it would be very tricky. So let's see how that worked. Yeah, well, let's take a look at how that worked for Yago. Go ahead.
When Japanese artist Yayoi Kusama first moved to New York City, she stood at the top of the Empire State Building and made a promise to herself. She would become world famous for her paintings, her sculptures, and her extraordinary creative energy. She was thousands of miles away from home, and she finally felt free. Yayoi was born in Matsumoto, a city in Japan surrounded by mountains and nature. Her parents owned a seed nursery which grew flowers to sell across the country. Yayoi would sit in the flower beds with her sketchbook and get lost in her imagination. She knew, even when she was very young, that she wanted to be an artist. But her parents were against the idea. At the time, most artists in Japan were men. Yayoi's mum wanted Yayoi to become a housewife. They got into terrible fights, but Yayoi was rebellious and unstoppable. When her mum snatched away her canvases, she used old sacks instead. One day, Yayoi was sitting in the flower beds when all the flowers seemed to come to life. Their heads were like dots that went on as far as she could see. She felt as if she was being obliterated or breaking into little pieces and disappearing into a field of endless dots. After Yayoi got home, she sketched lots and lots of the never-ending fields of flowers and what she'd seen in the field. Drawing helped her to feel calmer and more in control. She could break herself into dots or self-obliterate and become one with her surroundings. She also used dots to connect with other people, like in this drawing of her mum. A few years later, Yayoi saw the work of a famous and much older artist called Georgia O'Keeffe, who lived across the world in America. She decided to send Georgia a letter and some watercolor paintings she'd made. To her surprise, Georgia replied and even said she showed the watercolors to her art dealer. The letter was the start of a new adventure. Yayoi would later write, "If Georgia had not answered my letter, I'm not sure I would ever have made it to America. It was because of her that I was able to go to the USA and begin my artist career in earnest." When Yayoi was 27 years old, she packed 2,000 drawings into her suitcase and got on a plane. Away from her parents, she could paint from morning to night. She worked on giant canvases and became known for putting dots on walls, on clothes, on people, even on a horse. Yayoi found lots of fans who wanted her to paint dots on their bodies so they could become a part of her artworks. She finally met Georgia O'Keeffe in person and made friends with other famous American artists, including Andy Warhol, Joseph Cornell, and Donald Judd. But like in Japan, most of the artists in New York were men. Yayoi had to work extra hard to stand out, and sometimes this would leave her feeling exhausted and anxious. But making art was a safe space for her, where she could feel at peace. Now in her 90s, Yayoi is famous around the world for her work, just like she promised herself that day at the Empire State Building. She sees herself as a single dot, and everyone in the world is a dot, connected to another dot. Our Earth is like one little polka dot among millions of other celestial bodies, she once wrote. Let's forget ourselves and become one with the universe. When do you feel most connected with the world? And what would that look like in a drawing?
Okay, there we go. The thing I like about that story of Yayo is that she never quit and she kept practicing. You notice how her dots kept getting better and better, and choices. It's all about your choices. But if you keep on, if you keep doing what you love, you will be adding to the world and making it just a little bit better, if for no other reason than because you're happier in that world. If you could, those in the congregation could rise as you're able and form an arch and sing our children out. As you go to the spark of your precious life, we hold you in love as you go.
And now we come to the part of our service where we ask all of you to share with the congregation. If you want to do this online, you can go to our website, tahomauu.com, and there's a blue button, I believe, that says donate. You can click there and it'll give you directions on how to either use your debit or credit card or make a bank transaction if you haven't done so in the past. And as always, we thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Dedication of our offering. We dedicate ourselves and our offerings to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of love we call community, both within and beyond these walls. And now we move to the meditation hymn, which is number 123, Spirit of Life.
Stand as you are able and join me in singing Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Blow in the wind, giving life the shape of justice. Roots won't be closed, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Elizabeth Gilbert has said that your home or your passion is whatever in the world you love more than yourself. Whatever you practice regularly, you will improve at. Your education is not over until you say it's over. You can start whenever you decide to start, no matter how old or how young you are. Creating your life is the theme that I chose for today's service. Some of you know me well, some of you don't know me at all. My name's Patty McPhee. I've been a member of this congregation since 2008. And some of you are probably going, okay, she can talk about this, but what has this to do with me? They're saying that because I have learned to call myself an artist. I learned that long ago because I was very fortunate. I had the privilege of living most of my youth with my mother's sister, who was the most creative person I have ever met. She loved to dance as a small child. If she could dance rather than walk, that's what she did. But by the time she was 13, she never danced again. She never planted a garden. She never loved a man or woman romantically. She never cooked a meal. She became paralyzed by the time she was 16, and she spent the rest of her life in a wheelchair. She had contracted juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and those who are in the medical industry know that that means she was not just crippled, but she was stiff. She believed in herself enough and in the possibilities of life that throughout her life, she chose, long before modern surgeries replaced practically every joint in your body, she had her elbows replaced. She had her, and eventually she had both of her hips replaced so that she could draw, so that she could write. She chose life rather than pain. And arthritis is an extremely painful disease. And she believed in me. She believed in my creativity. In her 50s, I guess we're in her 30s, late 30s, she decided for her birthday, she wanted painting lessons. And so every week we would stand her at the easel and an artist would come in and teach her to paint. And I would sit in the grass with them and watch until they both gave me a canvas and a little bit of paint. And I painted my first painting. She knew how to say, I'm an artist. Something my grandmother was not able to do, although my grandmother was a very fine artist. You have a choice, not necessarily to be an artist, but I'm going to guess out here, there are people who love to cook, who want to create a beautiful home, who are raising wonderful children, who sew quilts. These things are all creative. But more than that, we are creating this world. Like Yayo, we've got a choice. Do we stand for ourselves and believe in ourselves? Or do we become passive, just passengers in this wonderful journey? I wrote a poem to my aunt a few years before she died. It's entitled, What is Dance? I see dance as a state of mind, a state of body, even if the body cannot respond. The mind's eye will see the movement. The arms that cannot be lifted will be lifted in the mind. The feet that cannot move on solid ground will fly and kick and pirouette. The body, stiff and unresponsive, is alive with the music of the mind. Do not let the movement stop. Let the music reach into your soul. You will soar on the wings of music. You will be the swirling beat, even if your mind is the only audience. Creativity is manifest in the world in everything we do, in everything we build and create in this very church that we are in. All of this is the creativity of human beings. We need to embrace that, recognize it, and direct it. To just say, okay, we're creative isn't enough. What will you create in this world? Because you're creating it whether you are intentional about it or not. So I want to spend this time we have together exploring what it might look like in our lives if we chose what colors to bring to our lives, if we chose how we want to be with each other, if we chose the music we want to dance to, and if we chose to dance. or laugh or cry or sing a song or write a story? What is it you've denied yourself and the world? Because your story matters. We often feel, I'm just a small cog here. What can I do? What can I do to make a change? I say to each of you, if you only give a smile to your neighbor, that smile will ripple out over the world. There's an old adage about every hurricane is started with the movement of a butterfly's wings. Not sure I really buy that that's actually what happens, but how many of you can remember a day when the world seemed to be against you and someone who you may not have even known looked at you and smiled? You were seen. Somebody noticed you. Your gift to the rest of us is to pass that along. Is it a picture you can paint? Is it encouraging your children to paint? Because I will tell you this, each of you painted marvelous pictures when you were children. So when did you stop giving yourself permission to do it? What? What was the reason? Oh, because I'm not good at it. Well, of course you're not good at it. You're not doing it. I will tell you this. I am a stone carver. So when I'm learning, like I was a few days ago, and I've only been doing this for 30 years. So, you still have to work on these things. And as I came home and told my husband, I said, my hands got really cold. And while I was drilling on this beautiful piece of stone, I chipped a piece. I chipped. And now I'm not sure what I'm going to do. And he says, you're going to figure it out. And he's right. I'm going to figure it out. It may be totally different from what I thought it was going to be. But I have a choice. And I will always choose to create the next thing. When I'm asked what my favorite stone is, I have a basic reply. And it hasn't changed in many years. It's the next stone. Whatever I'm going to do next, because I'm not quitting. And I want to encourage each of you, don't stop. The world needs your story. In the past few decades, there's been this incredible push towards STEM education. And we've all been caught up in this. There aren't enough scientists and mathematicians, and the girls need to learn how to do this. And I absolutely agree with that. Because if you look back many, many decades, women were actually the mathematicians. It wasn't generally the men, but they weren't considered smart enough to be engineers. They could do the figuring, but I'm not sure what that was about, but that was before my time, and I'll choose, well, it maybe wasn't exactly before my time. The gray hairs do give it away, don't they? The problem is, what do you do with all of that scientific knowledge, all of those mathematics, all of that technology, if somebody hasn't thought of some creative way to use it? I don't know how many times I have heard business owners, CEOs being asked, what are you looking for in your next employee? And what do they say? I need somebody who's creative. I need somebody to take us to the next level. But if we don't encourage our children who are already creative, who already want to make things that nobody's ever seen, like buffaloes with green hides and pom-poms, what are we going to do when we come up against a hard spot? Because imagination and creativity and the willingness to move outside of our comfort zone, outside of the known, and like Yayo, see every flower as a polka dot. Not because it is, but because it looks like that to her. We need to encourage creativity in our schools and our education. And if we can't do it there, we need to do it right here, right in your life. Be creative yourself. Take a class, go dance. I believe there's probably still folk dances being done all over this city. This city has more little clubs that do folk dancing than any place I have ever lived. Find out what makes you smile and then do it. Elizabeth Gilbert wrote a book called The Big Magic. And in it, she talked about a friend of hers who had been a competitive ice skater. And she was now in her late 40s. Her children were grown and gone, and she had time and she had a space to make choices. And she was trying to figure out, what am I going to do with this life? And she realized that one of the things that she truly missed was ice skating. She'd quit because she wasn't going to be the top ice skater. She wasn't going to be a gold medal winner. But she realized in her 40s that she really liked to skate. And why not just do it because you like it? So she hired a coach, and every week, 2 days a week, she goes to the ice rink and she skates just to bring herself joy and to bring joy to the people around her. I want to encourage each and every one of you, explore your past and try and remember what was it that gave you joy. Because if you can bring that into the now, you can bring joy to the person sitting right next to you. And they'll pass that on, just like fairy dust. It's amazing. You'll learn to fly because you can. It may not look like what you thought it was going to look like, but it will make you happy, and that will make the world a better place. We are all creating every day, spreading ourselves around thoughtlessly. We create random patterns. Most of us consider creating the pastime of others. The driven. I know I have it. Or the blessed, not us. We are simply us. Never realizing that each step we take creates a ripple that will echo down the halls of the future. The place that we create in the now will make room or squeeze out the dreams of tomorrow. If you want to paint, paint. If you want to dance, dance. Find out what brings you joy and find a way to do it. The joy you will receive will echo out into the world. And if you want to play croquet, play croquet. Your enjoyment will attract others. Joy is contagious. Spread it around and create a world that will become more because you were here. Let's take a moment to think about, what is it that used to bring you joy? How can you get involved in that today? And how can you encourage others to play a little and smile? And if you can rise in body or in spirit and join with me in singing, Let It Be a Dance, of course. Good after this. Sorry. Let me dance with you. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Right with the keep the fence and fill us air with feeling birds. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like the willow in the wind. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. A child is born, a boldness die. A time for joy, a time to cry. To take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. There is one more verse, hon.
That's okay.
That's all right. That's okay. Dance with you. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Dance, let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, he bear the pain. Round and round we go again. Let it be a dance.
Let me in for a minute before you do closing. So along the lines of what Patty's been talking about, I wanted to share this story that probably many of you have heard, but a few of you probably haven't, and I think it fits the moment. Little girl was in school in art class, and everybody was drawing different pictures, and the teacher walked up to the little girl and said, "So what are you drawing?" And she said, "I'm drawing a picture of God." And she said, "Well, nobody knows what God looks like." And she said, "They will when I'm done."
Elizabeth Gilbert said, if you do not panic, but stay with your creativity, the reward will come and the world will be grateful for your perseverance. I would like to ask Bob to extinguish the chalice. Join with me in the words on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And if you can rise as you are able and join with me in our closing blessing song. The words are going to be on the screen. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and by this we live. Oh, please join us for a little Easter sweetness over there and coffee and tea. Thank you all.